Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to my response to Bo's response to my last video, Chasing the Dragon. I actually, I was listening to his video, and all I had to write on instead of my handy dandy note cards were napkins, so I don't know what that says, but nicely done, Bo. But here's the thing. With this hobby that we're so lucky to be able to be a part of, there is and has always been this stigma about role playing, and he said the words that most of us don't want to hear for some weird psychological reason. And I've been thinking about this, and I use these words every once in a while. That's pretend and make-believe. And there's still a bunch of us that have been in this hobby for a very long time that just still can't get over that, literally, that stigma or that weird feeling of making believe and pretending and role-playing, because it is often deemed or looked at in an unspoken way of acting childlike. I wish I had the exact right words I'm trying to think of right now. My bullet points aren't really right now working. There's something about it, we've all heard, the lines about the theater kids, and Bo is the consummate role player. He, in all my games that I borrowed the MVP award from Bear, the Gen X GM. He always wins it because he's all in there, wanting to. It's a shame Shauna was no longer with us, because if he could see Bo, he'd be like, okay, you're my apprentice. And of course, Bo would tell him to fuck off, which I think is both funny and tragic, because Bo, of all the people we know, with maybe a couple exceptions, is the guy who's is trying to be as fully immersed and role play as hard and as well as he possibly can. But I play with a lot of people. I just got out of a game not even 10 minutes ago, and the in-character role-playing mindset is just sometimes just beyond their grasp, and it literally is, that stigma of the role-playing, the make-believe, the pretending. My other good friend, OGGM, is always talking about it as well. Talking about this silly game. I don't know, my hair keeps doing it. It's these zippers or something. We're just playing games of elves with sticks, and some of us just can't get over that bump. And it seems like the more we push and talk about it, the harder they resist, and the more they feel like they're being indoctrinated into a cult or into doing something that's somehow distasteful. And you guys, anybody who's been in a game with me knows when I role play the NPCs, I go all out. And when I'm in a game as a character, I try, but I also read the room. And if everybody else is kind of in that 2.5, not quite in the 3 or 4D role playing mode, then I'm gonna act accordingly and not try to push it or steal the spotlight or ham it up, because there's still so many players that we all know that just don't get over that 0.5 bump, as it were, into the 3D and the 4D role playing. They're fine with playing their tactical adventure strategy, not role playing games, adventure games, if you will, like Shauna used to put it, because there's so much in the way of mechanics and things that will pull you out of the immersion, because you have to state these things that are so very hard sometimes to say in a role-playing fashion. El Jaguar would really, and still does, really, freaking clamp down and and penalize you for not saying things just perfectly. And a lot of us are afraid of having that same sort of attitude, where instead of asking, "Hey, GM, what color is the door?" You'll, in Jaguar's mind and other role-playing masters' mind, is you literally have to say, "I examined the door trying to determine what color it is," and that sounds retarded. We don't talk like that. We don't think like that. We just instinctively do. What color's the freaking door? I don't need to waste valuable microseconds going into that when you could just go in in-game talk about the mechanics or the actions. Sometimes it's easier to do that. That's why, hold on a second. I said just yesterday, this is the greatest role-playing game ever, because that's all you do. You don't ever, there's almost no way to break immersion in this game, because you are 100% in character, and everything is 3 or 4D role-playing. If you don't believe me, go check out the game and see the mechanics. It's the hard part about that game is if you haven't read the Amber Chronicles, then you are lost within the first couple of pages, because it's so part and parcel of the entire idea of the Amber role-playing game. You need to read those books, but its mechanics are written in a role-playing fashion where you don't literally, in order to gain the advantage in any situation, you have to describe and role-play it, and that literally determines 90% of your success or failure in the way you do that. If you say, "I swing my sword," versus and you describe it a little more, that gives you actually more of an advantage, or determines your success. And most of us have either lapsed or backslid into the game mechanics role playing, as an ROLL playing versus the ROLE playing, because of all it takes is just let's say a consensus, an unwritten sort of, if there's like 4 people that are playing mechanically versus 2 or 3 that want to role play, they kind of win, because they outvote subliminally or subconsciously, or however you want to look at it, the tone and the feel and the workings of the game as it's going, because you got player A, B, C, and D playing mechanically, and then you got players F and G wanting to role play, and everybody's on this side looking at them like they're taking up and wasting time, stating their actions in a more flamboyant, more role play method, as opposed to, "I rolled a hit, I roll perception," shit like that. And no matter how much you say or go over it in your session 0, it's all too easy for those players to just fall back, especially when time is of the essence. I've been in games where the role playing was great, but no dice were rolled, and no combat or no treasure, or none of the kind of tangible things that a lot of people are looking for get done, because everybody was having a good time role playing at the tavern, or with the shopkeepers, and people who don't really care for that will complain to the GM, "Hey, I want to get shit done. This is bogging it down. We've only got 2 or 3 hours to play. I don't want to waste time talking to the shopkeeper, or the people at the inn, or the quest giver. Let's just get on the road and start fighting and getting treasure and getting experience points." And that's really the crux of the problem, or part of it. Anyways, the players that just want to get to the action and the die rolling and the combat, which to them in their mind is role playing, because that's where the action is and that's what they care about. That's what they want to do is fight and find treasure and do all the other peripheral things aside from the role playing, getting into the character, being the character like Bo was talking about, which all of this stuff we should, most of us should know, but it's all too easy to either fall back into the bad habits or be embarrassed to stand up and gesticulate and get into the character and do the things, because then some people who are uncomfortable with that and are just there for the action and the excitement and the die roll, and feel they've been cheated of their time at the table, which, let's face it, most of the people we all know and play with play online for 2 or 3 hours, and we're all used to playing like 8 or more hours. A game was an event, and we had time to do both. We had time to move the minis around on the table, which was faster, and getting everything into position, and to do the combat, and then still have time for the role-playing immersion, getting into the character and talking with other NPCs, because you can play your character in a ROLL playing fashion in certain circumstances, and not eat up the time at the table, and not sort of hog the spotlight for the players who don't want to do that. Only so much before the other players, just like, I'm out because we're not getting anything done, I'm not having fun, because what I'm here for is one thing or another. And unfortunately, those people believe they were role-playing the whole time. They're playing a role-playing game. How can they not be role-playing? They're playing a role-playing game, just by the virtue of being there and willing to play these games with fantasy characters and miniatures and monsters and funky dice. That oh, okay, now I have to act and pretend and talk in funny voices and those things, because sometimes, like, if I'm a player, I don't do the funny voices, but literally within certain exceptions, to me, I'm role playing. My character, what I say is what my character would say, even if it's out of combat and we're making plans. My character is saying the things that I'm saying, but unfortunately, some people feel that if you don't talk differently than you normally talk, that you aren't role playing. And only the GM really has the right to judge people on their role playing or not. If they're not convinced that you're role playing, then you're not, unless you are pretty obvious about being the theater kid and talking in saying things, the these and the thous, or like when Bo does his rituals and spell casting in his character, you can tell he doesn't talk like that normally, because he's using words that only a wizard from the Hyborian age would say. So we've got to work a little harder at being a little more understanding, and remove the stigma and the embarrassment factor of the words make believe and pretend. Because I was thinking about this just right before this video. I think whoever came up with the term role playing actually came up with it to avoid using the words pretend and make believe, because when you say that, you think of little kids in the backyard on the school ground pretending they're Superman and Spider-Man, and I got you, no you didn't, as Bo was saying. Maybe remember of the rope proof vest. If anybody remembers where that comes from, you will also win a no prize, because I always kept that in my mind, because it was one of the funniest make-believe things I'd ever heard, and that's what it all is. That's what it all boils down to, is making believe, pretending you're someone else, but with rules. And for some of us, we'd like to talk about the rules less and talk more in character. So that's what I've got for you this morning. Hopefully Bo and I will be over on Bloodworth's live stream. That'll be about an hour and a half from now, when this video drops in the morning. Obviously, it's still Thursday night when I'm talking about this, But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments section. And if you have time, go over to Bloodworth's channel. Definitely go over to Bo's channel and watch his response video to the previous video, because I think this topic, still has a lot more meat on the bone that we can chew up and try and literally capture that dragon we've been chasing, and also at the same time remove the stigma of playing make-believe games of elves with sticks and pretending to be people that we're not. Because when you boil it all down, that's literally what we're playing. That's what we're doing. And I hope you guys find and make some use of these videos, and it encourages you to role play the hard way. So that's what I've got for you guys. I will see you guys real soon, and until then, I'll see you in the funny papers.